Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Straight No Chaser podcast. This is the show where we talk about human freedom through money, technology, economics, and philosophy. So today's show is a little bit different. This is actually a session that we recorded live at Adopting Bitcoin in Cape Town in January 2026, so just last month. It's the same panel of guys that we do the normal monthly roundup with. So it's Oken, Herman, Ricky, and myself. And the title of the talk was called Beyond the Bull Run. 2025 was pretty much the year that we expected number go up, price to the moon, and all that sort of thing. And it turned out that wasn't the case. But what was really interesting was to take a look and see what did happen behind the scenes in the Bitcoin space, from the technology improvements, adoption improvements, and just have a look at what really went down. At the end of the conversation, we sort of decided that 2025 was in fact a pivotal year for Bitcoin, and the price is a distraction, and sometimes we can be blinded by that. So this was a great chat, and I know you guys will enjoy it.
Just before we get to our next panel, I've got to mention, just last night, my dad sent me a message on the family group wishing me good luck for emceeing this conference today and tomorrow. And in that same message, he said Bitcoin is down, and he read an article, it's going down to 60K. Shout out to my dad. My response to him was that out of 92 talks that we have over this conference, over the 2 days, not one of those talks are about Bitcoin price. It's all about building. It's building economies, building apps, building communities, APIs, etc. And I think this next panel is about to get into that very soon. I think it's about to get quite loud in here. Just with Oken alone, it will be loud. But okay, can we please get Herman, Ricky, Gavin, and Oken to the stage? Whoop, whoop. There we go. Okay, so Gavin, husband, father, podcaster. Herman is Bitcoin Ikasi. Ricky, I mean, he's orange and Bitcoin only. Okay. And Oken is the founder of a failed Bitcoin circular economy.
True. That is true.
Also Easy Sats and Bitcoin mining Namibia.
Correct.
Cool. Okay. Thanks for the introduction. As you said, no one's spoken about the price yet, so the title is Beyond the Bull Run. So we are indicating about the price, but we're not going to talk about it. So I decided to title this Why the 2025 No-Show Bitcoin Bull Run was the best thing to happen to Bitcoin. Joined on stage. No, I don't think it's necessary. The stuff's all available afterwards anyway, so let's hit off. Okay, so basically the expectation for 2025, as we all know, was to the moon. Massive pump. Everyone was talking about this big thing that was coming in. The reality was that Bitcoin actually traded sort of in this frustrating range, didn't really do what we wanted it to do. The failure that people are talking about all the time is that, well, this is volatile, we're going to stay away from it, there's no 10x gains. But there's a victory here, and the victory is actually that while the price went sideways, fundamental adoption is really growing. So that's actually what we want to focus on, not the price. So the thesis is that we've transitioned from speculative cycle to infrastructure cycle. And I'm splitting this little, we're just going to talk about a few aspects in the Bitcoin space. The first one being technology. So a couple of things that did happen. Lightning Network adoption went through the roof, volume went up, adoption went up, it went absolutely crazy, and we had layer 2 techs being developed at a rapid rate and expanding. We had BitVM, we had first ARC transactions going through. So there was a ton of stuff actually happening on these. Now, I've sort of separated Lightning Network from layer 2s, but I mean, it's kind of all the same thing. But my question, Nicola, I'm going to aim this one at you, is on the tech side, is layer 2s the space where the development is now happening? Is the base layer basically ossified? Is it stable enough? Can we build our dreams on layer 2s? Is that where we're going?
Thanks for the question. I don't know why you're always giving me the tech questions, but okay. Do I think that layer 1 is ossified? No. I don't think it's time to think that Bitcoin has absolutely no way to still be improved on the base layer. I do believe that a lot more work in development and even just attention is on layer 2s and sidechains now. But I do think people are still looking at how do we do silent payments on chain? How do we do moving forward something more private than what we are doing now? Again, it is the developers that will be doing that. So my answer to you is no, I don't think that layer 1 has been ossified yet, and I think there's still a lot of work to be done before we fully just only work on layer 2.
Cool. One of the other things that was that's been a hot topic in the Bitcoin space is miner centralization. I've entitled it miner decentralization. I think 2025 saw some pretty significant changes coming out. Stuff that had been spoken about for a while has come up. So Stratum V2 is out. I see Demand Pool actually launched in 2025. Brains have transitioned, they say, 100% over to Stratum V2. And some of the other big pools, Foundry and F2 Pool, are looking at that as well. There's also Ocean that have got their Datum protocol as well. So basically, both of those allow the miners to build their own templates if they're inside a mining pool. Up until this time, with the current or the older stuff, the mining pool would decide what the block template was going to be. But now it looks like we're making progress on this. And actually, Ricky, this is the question I wanted to ask you. Is this finally the breakthrough moment that we've needed? Have we turned a corner, or do we still have a problem here?
No, I think we still have a major problem here. Like, mining centralization is a huge concern, and I don't think it's dramatically changed. Even though Stratum V2 is out there, I don't think it's dramatically changed so much. Like, if you add up all of the pools together that are still using, sorry, is that better? If you add up all the pools together that are still using like Bitmain's templates, you've got massive centralization in mining. The good thing is that, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Gridless released the blueprints and templates for building an open source miner, a cheap open source miner, which is amazing. This is the first time we've seen this. It kind of started with the BitAxe, which is like a tiny little home miner for playing around with. But now we're seeing proper miners that can actually pull some watts that are open source. So that gives me hope. But yeah, with the institutionalization of Bitcoin that's happening, with the big institutions buying so much Bitcoin, you can best believe they're going to try to centralize mining. So all this stuff is critical, and Stratum V2 is great. But yeah, there's still a long way to go.
Cool. I just want to point out, if anyone's got something to say on a topic, don't just grab the mic and just go for it.
Okay, so on that note, I'm just really going to add on to what Ricky was saying. So when we were in Mauritius last month, Gridless actually launched, it's not that they created a whole new miner, they open sourced it by saying you would only need an open source control board, which is what they did, and then of course, with that, it's speaking to the hashboard. So now you can literally, the same way that that Block did with their miner, where you can literally replace hashboards. You could go and buy a second-hand miner and use those boards with the open source stack that's on GitHub. And the reason for this miner isn't to replace all other miners, is to say, let's say you have solar running and you have an abundance of solar. If you're only using 80% of your solar, that miner will only switch on to take the additional 20%. Once that 20% has been taken, the miner will switch off so that the rest of your electricity is actually going to where you want it to be allocated. So it's a smart miner kind of thing.
And just to expand on that, I think how mining decentralizes is where you are using miners in small home environments, small business environments to capture stranded energy or surplus energy. Like that's how we decentralize mining. Like if you think you can run a massive mining operation on your open source miners, like you're not really going to be able to compete. But that's not the world we want anyway. We want every home to have a Bitcoin miner in it for capturing surplus energy and producing excess heat, etc., heating water, things like that.
I think one of the things I've noticed in the past year is the sort of almost plug-and-play stuff that's coming up for home enthusiasts to mess around with. The Umbrel little home node and the Start9 devices. Oken, you mentioned in a talk earlier, you all used to say, get a Raspberry Pi, you'll be fine. And now
that was bad advice.
It was good at the time. We worked with what we had. And now you've got these things, you just take them off the counter, you plug them in, and off it goes. The little home mining thing as well, you mentioned the BitX units. We've had solo miners winning blocks this year. It gets advertised. I think there was even one of the BitX devices actually found a block. Three blocks.
Three okay. BitXs last year won mining blocks.
Get a BitX, plug it in at work.
Miner decentralization right there. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So, I mean, that's just a snapshot on tech. Big stuff that happened in the year. Freedom money, though. I think basically Bitcoin is money, and it's about the freedom. So I've entitled this, You Can't Stop Us. The headline here is, in South Africa, we saw a shift from investing in Bitcoin to living on Bitcoin. We've had retail payments boom. We've had comments about what Money Badger guys have done, all the circular economies that have been working towards the payments, and that's really gone through the roof. And I think that's probably a large part of why we're seeing Lightning Network volume growing all the time. The remittances as well, payments, cross-border payments, that has had a fantastic year in 2025. So I made a quick note here. Global cross-border payments has reached 428 billion in 2025. So it's significant amounts of money. South Africa and Africa in general, adoption is driven by cost. I put an amount here that in 25, the average cost to send $200 worth of value via Bitcoin was under 2%, compared to 6 to 10% using traditional methods. So talking about freedom money, Ricky, this is maybe one for you. Circular economies 2026. Do you think people need to know that they're paying on Bitcoin, or does it even matter anymore?
No, I think it does matter. Depending on the context. Like we own a company that does cross-border payments on the Lightning Network, and we abstract that away from the end user. And that's fine. That serves as a tool to move money cross-border more efficiently, faster, better than traditional rails. But ultimately, if we want to win this revolution against central banking, people need to know that they're using Bitcoin. And ultimately, sending fiat, so let's say sending euros to South Africa, and you're going euro conversions to Bitcoin and then converting Bitcoin to Rand and settling. This is the flow that Orange uses. That's all good and well if you want to send fiat, but ultimately it's way easier just to send Bitcoin to someone else, like with less hops and less steps and less intermediaries, right? But it obviously takes adoption and people to understand that Bitcoin is superior money, and people need to want to spend it. So that that comes with the adoption curve, I guess. But I think the way that we win this is by people just accepting Bitcoin directly. Because if you accept Bitcoin directly, you defund the state, and that's how we win.
Can I add something to that? Without fail, when I talk to someone who's new to Bitcoin, the first thing they have in mind is either one of these centralized exchanges, Luna or whatever. That's what most people see as Bitcoin. And when you tell them you want to pay them in Bitcoin, they're like, oh, no, man, that's a mission. Because I remember what it was like signing up for that account the first time. The only reason it's difficult is because it's connected to the fiat system. The moment you don't have to bother with fiat, that's the easiest thing in the world. I mean, it takes less than a minute to download the app and another minute at most to receive a payment. So yeah, as grateful as I am for a lot of these companies, I mean, Money Badger in particular has made it incredibly easy to demonstrate that Bitcoin is real money. Because if you walk in Pick and Pay and you pay with Bitcoin, clearly it's not a scam. So that's all you need to do to convince someone to really accept it as payment. Because if they know they can take that and go spend it there, then it's fine. But as grateful as I am for that, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to don't stop there, but to push further as far as possible until it's just Bitcoin.
Speaking about that, one of the other developments was the first stable coins on via Taproot assets happened last year.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. So the question is, if Tether is moving onto the Bitcoin network or via layer 2 or whatever the case is, do you think that's going to help or hinder the sats only? Or is that the perfect gateway drug where, I think, Ricky, you alluded to it, if you're going to go and buy a stable coin and then send it to somebody else and it's got to go through the Bitcoin network, will people eventually just go, stuff it, I'll just go the Bitcoin route?
I think if you stay into the abyss stares into you. So if we add stablecoins to the Lightning Network, stablecoins are just an extension of the fiat system. It's like, a slightly more efficient fiat. So, it comes with risk. Yes, maybe that orange pulls people, but what happens when we put that filth on the network? So there's that to consider. And I say that as someone who's got a vested interest in having stablecoins on the Lightning Network, because it would mean that our customers wouldn't have to stuff around with Tether on Tron and Ethereum and Solana and other shitty chains. They can just send it on Lightning. But, yeah, the jury's still out as to what that would mean and what dangers stablecoin bring with them. Does that then give the feds mandate to go after node operators because you're an unlicensed money transmitter or whatever bullshit term they have? So, yeah.
Just to add to that, I think it's actually very interesting, the stablecoin conversation. Twofold. Number one, I don't know if you need to do stablecoins on Lightning because you can already do them on Liquid. Right? Liquid exists. You can issue tokens on Liquid. So if you really wanted to do a stablecoin, Bitcoin oriented, you could do it on Liquid and then just do it that way. A second thing that I would say is...
Can I push back on that?
Of course you can.
So yes, but it means as a developer you have to integrate a second system now, which you've got to integrate Liquid. And that's fine. It's working. People...
Got you. It works in Aqua.
Full wallet works in Aqua.
Yeah.
Works
So it's there, but my point of it first was to say we could find a way to do this. Here's my problem. What happens when that coin loses its pegging? Because if I tell this person, hey, you should accept USDT, and USDT loses its pegging to the US dollar, what do I tell that person about what they've lost? Now, if I tell them accept Bitcoin and Bitcoin's price goes down, they still have Bitcoin. Right? It's still the same amount of Bitcoin. It's just the fiat equivalent or way of looking at that Bitcoin has changed. But if it's a USDT stablecoin that is pegged to something else, and that thing loses its pegging, and they come back to me, that's a whole other argument. And then the third thing about the stablecoins is they're basically, in my view, they're hidden CBDCs. 100%. They're central bank digital currencies because they are pegged to a central bank currency. So again, if the central bank decides certain things, the question is what happens? What is the question? The person that we're telling to do this instead of this, and they come back, what is your reply if the pegging's lost, if this and that and that and that? Again, there's no pegging for Bitcoin, so I don't have that problem. So,
yeah,
Ricky?
Just to give some color to what Oken was saying now, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but Tether froze some of the Venezuelan USDT. Venezuela was doing oil trade in USDT. That was dumb on their behalf, but they were doing it anyway.
And they advertise it on their website.
And they advertise it. Yeah. But they were doing trade in USDT, and if they were doing trade in US dollars, a US court or a judge would have had to have issued a warrant or some kind of the legal recourse to freeze that money. But now, on Tether, the feds just had to go to Tether and say, freeze that account. No legal process. So you've got a CBDC. You've got worse than banks, in terms of having your money stolen from you.
Can we spend the rest of the panel talking about stablecoins?
Absolutely not. But we're talking about freedom money.
And I'm asking, can we?
Can you? No, you can't.
And hijack the man's talk.
We'll bring it back to stablecoins, Herman, don't worry.
One more. Herman, stablecoin?
There was a dude wearing a stablecoin T-shirt at a Bitcoin Circular Economy Summit yesterday. That's all I'm going to say.
Wasn't he one of the MCs?
Hey, I think you guys need to leave my MCs alone. I think it was an accident. I don't think he was paying attention at the point in time. I didn't see the shirt till later, but it was an interesting thing to do.
Okay, we'll do tar and feathering later this afternoon.
In his defense, it only said Tether on the back. You couldn't see it. It was not on the front.
You couldn't see it.
Okay. I titled this one the Nostr Summer Explosion. And it actually ties into one of the earlier speakers was talking about Soweto BTC and just saying how the people are struggling to, they're just excluded from the economy. And there's just a line I want to read here, actually 2 lines. Before 2025, an African creator needed Twitter for the audience, Stripe or PayPal, which often they couldn't get for money, and a bank to hold the value. On Nostr, the public key is the identity. The audience and the Lightning wallets is the bank. It is the first time the content and the capital have shared the same architecture. And then my favorite quote from that article, this is from an artist in Ghana. He just said, a single zap from a fan on Nostr often exceeded the revenue from 5,000 streams on legacy platforms. Yep. So, Nikolai, question here for you. Is Bitcoin Freedom Tech finally the tool that is going to allow rural economies to compete with urban centers?
Definitely is my answer. But okay, go on. What did you want to say?
Interrupt you guys. I've got to go host a fireside chat on the other side.
So you guys go tar and feather that guy?
That's actually what I'm doing.
So you can start the answer then.
Excuse me. No, I don't have an answer.
That's my fault. I did the scheduling.
Blame Max.
So just to answer your question, I think yes, the time has come. I think it's been time, and Nostr is the perfect. It's the perfect product at the perfect time, and the reasoning behind that for me is, if you're looking at right now what's happening with TikTok, you say certain words on TikTok and you just get deplatformed. With Twitter, there's certain things you can't say, otherwise you're shadow banned. Nostr, whatever is created, once it's relayed, it's relayed. You can't unrelay it. But at the same time, for artists, I've always told people when I did my first educational in Namibia, it was with the guy that quote-unquote orange pilled me, and he was an artist. He was actually our music producer. And when he was standing there, he was standing on stage saying, I've been a music producer for 20 years. 20 years. People have paid me for my beats here and there to go and record on it. But once I put them on Nostr, the amount of, well, he used Nostr, but he meant Wavelake. But once he used Bitcoin as the payment mechanism for him to be able to receive as an artist, that he earned way more than he has over 20 years in 1 year. Because people enjoyed the music so much, they could say, hey, I can't buy the song, but I want this guy to continue creating. Now, for me, what Nostr does is, if you're taking pictures, if you're just doing workouts, whatever it is, I know an MMA champion, I told him, dude, put all your training videos on. Let people know what you're doing and tell them you accept Bitcoin and that you're training kids for Bitcoin. And all of a sudden, you now have a different mechanism of trying to not just monetize the skills that you have, but also expose it to a different audience that didn't even know they wanted to support you. And I think Nostr is the greatest mechanism of doing that for artists, for business people, for anything where you didn't have an audience before. There's a hungry audience looking for what they didn't know is there. So I'd stop there. I hope that's the right answer.
Herman, maybe a second follow-up question to you is this something that will, how do you think this is going to liberate the average African, South African, anybody living on the continent of Africa? Africa famously doesn't trade amongst itself. Country A doesn't trade with country B because they have different currencies, they don't trust each other, it's a whole big disaster. How could this impact that? Do you think this is maybe the future of the African economy?
Bitcoin or Nostr? I suppose Nostr is a little early to tell. I think it's very early in Nostr. But in Bitcoin, somebody else asked me the other day why there's been so many circular economies, popping up, people saying, I want to build one. The last year has been very busy, particularly because a lot of people have looked to our project to sort of, guidance is the wrong word, but I hate to put myself in that position, but well, whatever you want to call it. The point is that there's a whole bunch of circular economy projects, and we tried to bring them all together at the summit yesterday for this reason, and I do wonder why there's so much more interest in building circular economies in Africa than there are in the rest of the world. Just sort of one indication is that Bitcoin Beach which is it's not the OG circular economy. The first one was in the Netherlands, and I do always like to credit them because they really were first. But Bitcoin Beach was the first one to gain international recognition, and they do some small grants from time to time, and it's not a lot of money, but they try to seed these circular economies. And in the recent round of applications that they put out, more than 50%, I think it was higher than 60% of all the applications they received were from African projects. That means the rest of the world put together accounted for less than 40% of the applications that they received. And these applications were open to circular economy projects from all around the world. And somebody asked me, why do you think this is? And I don't pretend to know the answer. I can only guess. But I think it is because of that. And I use how difficult it is to travel in Africa is sort of the same sort of how difficult it is to send money. You can kind of use that as an analogy. I mean, it's often easier to fly to Europe and then back down to Ghana, and cheaper as well, by the way, if you're traveling within Africa. And it's people from Europe and other parts of the world sometimes can't understand, but how can that be? Like, you're flying halfway around the world and then flying back to your own continent. But that's the easiest, cheapest, sometimes even the fastest way to get there. And money in Africa kind of works like that. And I think that's why there is such a high level of interest. So yeah, Bitcoin could do that for Africa. It could liberate Africa, but it's not a given. There's challenges that remain, and one of those obviously is using Bitcoin on a day-to-day basis. It's one thing sending money from anywhere in Africa to anywhere in Africa, but it's another thing entirely for the person receiving that Bitcoin to actually be able to do anything with it.
No, 100%. I think the thing I enjoyed about the Nostr example was that you have the place where you can display your talent, and then you have the mechanism to get paid at the same time. And that's can't be stopped by any board or any government. So I'm hugely hopeful about that. I'm going to keep my eyes on that, and hopefully at next year's Adopting Bitcoin, we'll have the update on 2026.
Just a quick aside, actually, you know that the Adopting Bitcoin Cape Town had its Twitter profile shut down 3 days before the conference last year. And so during the course of last year's Adopting Bitcoin Cape Town, we only had Nostr, which was kind of funny. And I was pushing hard on the organizing committee to completely abandon Twitter and Facebook for that matter. But I think I was overruled on that one, and ultimately it makes sense because we want to get normal people in here too. But that was super annoying. I mean, I'd never experienced that before up until that point, and I was running social media for the conference last year, leading up to the conference, and I was sitting there, and in one moment, just boom, gone. And everything we'd posted for this conference, trying to promote it, trying to get people here, all of a sudden you just put in the Twitter username and say, sorry, account suspended, or whatever the case may be. I still don't know why.
Well, good thing for...
No, I just wanted to add, he literally was like, guys, we're deleted. Like, what do we do now? We should just all abandon it. And he was right. Again, if you're on a centralized system, like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any of them, you can be deplatformed. My EasySats account on Instagram is gone. They deleted it. I can't do anything about that. But Nostr, they can't take from me. I hold the private keys. I run my own relay. Even if I didn't run my own relay, you can't unpost. You can't delete on Nostr. When it's out there, it's gone.
Well, what's interesting is that they delete the account of the person organizing a conference. And what's he going to do? He's going to talk about these account was deleted, and then just help spread the word. So Barbara Streisand effect right there. Moving along, just onto institutions, the silent takeover. So 2 years ago, we were talking about South Africa's grey listing, and there was all sorts of uncertainty. Today, there's been over 300 licensed service providers. Discovery Bank is now offering Bitcoin trading in their app. ABSA and the other banks are doing that sort of thing as well. Now, I know Stafford spoke a little bit about that in one of the earlier sessions, so I hope you guys caught that. But it does look like South Africa has always had this, and I'm going to pass this back to you, Herman. You know, South Africa seems to have often been the grassroots center of the world in terms of Bitcoin adoption. But now we look like we're having some top-down approach as well. Is this, how is this going to advance Bitcoin in South Africa, do you think?
I mean, we need both. I'm not under the illusion that grassroots adoption alone will get us to where we want to be. So you need the top-down approach. But I like the top-down approach when it's built by people who take the grassroots approach into account. I don't like the top-down approach when it's built by people who just don't care about what's happening at a grassroots level. You can build top-down and still be building with the grassroots version of things, in the back of your head. I mean, look, you want Bitcoin to be everywhere at the end of the day, and I don't think everybody at the end of eventually not everybody is going to be using it in self-custody and what. There are going to be people who do it the institutional way, and that's fine. It's just that we need to. I think the important thing is, and this is, I guess, the bottom line for me, is that the people who really care about this and the effect that it can have on the world, they need to be the ones pushing as hard as possible to get that threshold of grassroots adoption as high as possible. It's the same as running a node. My node doesn't matter. Like, I can go home and I can switch off my Bitcoin node. It's not going to affect the network. But if everybody does that, then we're screwed. So you need the node network, but it's not that one single individual node matters much. Not at all, really. It matters for my own sovereignty to broadcast my own transactions and verify my own transactions. But for the network, my single node doesn't matter too much. That being said, you do want that number as high as possible. We'd rather have more than less. So yeah, it is going to help. The top-down approach obviously does help, and we do need that. But we need to push as hard as possible, because I don't think the top-down approach needs pushing. They typically tend to take over as soon as they gain traction. It's the grassroots approach that needs constant pushing.
Yeah, that was one thing I thought about, is that when the top guys get involved, massive marketing campaigns and budgets, and that just proliferates, and then you've got billboards everywhere, and Bitcoin is wonderful. So that is cool, but at the end of the day, it's about freedom money, guys on the ground. I'm going to jump through just quickly to the end, just to wrap up. I'm going to skip a slide on geopolitics. That's Ricky's department, and he's not here. But I think this whole idea of going to the moon might mean something different. So the proposal is that the bull run is really mental and structural, not just financial. So in 2025, although the price went sideways, the development, expansion, adoption behind the scenes was unbelievable. And I think price is just a distraction. We talk about it all the time, and I think 2025 has proved that to be an absolute use case, or proved that to be true, that price is the distraction, because you don't actually know the stuff that goes on behind the scenes unless you're involved. So I'd just like to open up to the floor. Anyone with a question to any of the panelists?
I mean, the price definitely impacted our ticket sales. So it's
Any questions? Okay. Okay, we have one.
So I think we have a debate when we're saying here, okay, we don't talk about value, it hasn't been mentioned at all. But value is important. And I'm not sure where that line is. Is there an important for a baseline? I mean, you mentioned your dad saying it going down to 60,000. Well, okay, that's not too serious, but 20 maybe serious, maybe 10 or 20, maybe it goes up to 100. I don't know. At some point, it's going to impact something, and I'm not quite sure what it is. And I do believe that the institutions are going to try and get hold of this. I can't see them going down without a fight. And I think that's what also happened this year. I mean, if you see the value that they're going to be losing, or that the elite's going to be losing when Bitcoin takes over properly, I mean, it's like a game changer. They're not going to let that go. I mean, you've got the major institutions looking at their profits and everything that's happening, and it goes. I mean, they're not going down without a fight. So where is that fight? And I agree, it is making sure that it comes at grassroots level, but I don't know if that's strong enough.
Yeah.
That's the concern. My concern suddenly this year was that I thought, gosh, I'm not sure if Bitcoin's going to win at the end of the day, because it's right.
Yeah.
And that's a big concern.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, it's not a question, it's an observation that could Bitcoin be taken over completely and that it doesn't work anymore? Because it becomes too institutionalized or too top-heavy or it's taken over by the elite?
It could, I guess.
That's the short answer. Do you want me to give a longer one? Okay, so yes, it could. And how that happens is we stop being the driving force of Bitcoin. We stop coming to conferences, we stop giving our time, we stop giving our volunteerism, our ingenuity, and we just say, Bitcoin's already won. If we believe Bitcoin's already won right now, it will be taken over. But here's the thing. The people in government, the people in central banks are people. They're all just human beings. And like with all human beings, if you're willing to have a conversation, a true conversation with them, you'd be very surprised that some of them, again, it's incentives. I've always looked at Bitcoin like an incentive structure. If I know the bank is going to think I'm losing money, what if I show the bank how they don't lose money? What if I show them, like Herman was saying, not everybody is going to want a self-custody. Some people don't trust themselves. They might want a community bank. But if you can act as a community bank in Bitcoin for those people, has it failed? Per se, maybe self-custody for those people has failed, but the other people are still self-custody. So how do we engage with the people that might want to co-opt Bitcoin? Do we let them attack it from their own sides, or do we go and sit with them and say, this doesn't work and this is why not, this doesn't work and there's a better way for you to integrate this into the living structure of your citizens without being the boogeyman? And I think it comes from not being afraid of speaking to those people in power and having a conversation with them and saying, no, that doesn't work like that. Because again, Bitcoin was banned in many of our countries until it wasn't. And it got unbanned because of conversations from people that were either in the grassroots or already in structures that understood the utility of this tool and this technology beyond its price action. So I hope that answers your question.
Can I just, I don't mean to be dismissive because I thought there was a question, but I think you were making more of a statement saying that there is a chance that it could be co-opted, if I understand you correctly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, and that's why it irritates me so much when I hear people say Bitcoin is inevitable. But it's not inevitable. It depends on people at the end of the day. If everybody shut off their nodes tomorrow, then yeah, we have a problem. Me switching off my node is not going to make a massive impact on the network. And if our project disappeared tomorrow, we should be fine. But if all the grassroots projects disappear tomorrow, then we have a much, much bigger problem. I think, I mean, we're over time, but just to kind of finish off that point, I think the point is that we don't know at what point it becomes co-opted and how it becomes co-opted, but we do know what needs to be done to try and prevent that doesn't happen. It's not a guarantee. We might do everything we can and still end up losing that battle. But that's one of the reasons why I put everything I have into, I mean, on an energy level, I don't put my own money into the conference. I mean, energetically, I put everything I have into the conference because that's one of the ways in which we fight back. If you looked at the scheduling this morning, there was a reason why those talks followed one another the way they did. It's because that conversation needs to be had, and we should have that conversation.
Awesome. Should we take one more, or do we call it? Okay.
Time.
We are way above time, so please just go straight to the question, and that will be our last question for this session.
Maybe a bit of a hot take. We always talk about institutions taking over Bitcoin. I sometimes feel it's a bit naive that we think that. Bitcoin was going to happen, and the more it lasted and the more its value grew and the purchasing power compounded, institutions are going to come to Bitcoin. That was clear and it was always going to happen, and Bitcoin is taking over institutions. Attacking Bitcoin so that it fails, it's of no economic benefit or incentive for anybody to shut off their individual node or for Michael Saylor to do something to Bitcoin that would impact his organization, his business, and everything else he's trying to build. Bitcoin's expensive to attack, and the more people get into it, the higher the barrier to attack becomes. So I may have a different perspective on that.
Also a statement, not a question.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's cool.
All right, awesome. Thank you guys so much. Would that be all? Awesome. A round of applause for them, ladies and gentlemen.